Part 49. Man at the Top of the Food Chain. Author, Seong Lang-go. Chapter 481. Lee Erniu, this terrifying figure is like a dark cloud, hanging over the entire Europe. To foreign evil forces, he is the Red Devil, a monster and devil who has accepted the power of the devil. For the people of the Red Country, he is hope, dawn, the son of the Red, the chairman of the Red Party, a great proletarian revolutionist, strategist, and theorist. In just 5 years, the entire Eurasian continent was conquered by the Red Allied Workers and Peasants Army created by Lee Erniu. More than 2 million workers and peasants soldiers were like a red craze, sweeping across the entire Eurasian world. And now, their next target is on the other side of the English Channel, one of the strongholds of capitalism and the den of evil, the British Empire. As the surrounding scenes quickly zoomed in and adjusted, Li Anping and the man appeared in an office. Behind the desk, Lee Erniu was sitting on an office chair reviewing documents. When Li Anping and the man appeared, his eyes flashed. He looked at the two people who looked exactly like him and asked, "Who are you?" Li Anping was surprised. "Can he see us?" "Of course, you think this is a pure image," the man shook his head. "I'm not asking you to watch a movie, we are just walking along the timeline." The next moment, as the man waved his hands, the whole world seemed to speed up the flow of time, and Li Anping and the man were like two moviegoers, quietly watching the history of this planet. "Chairman, the 26th, 31st, and 52nd Army Groups are ready." Lee Erniu walked out of the government office building and was about to get in his car and walk towards the military camp. At this moment, more than a dozen priests in robes rushed up. They held crosses, sprinkled holy water, wore garlic on their heads, and kept shouting at Lee Erniu, "Lord, please send down divine punishment and kill this devil. Son of the devil, go back to your hell." At this moment, a priest poured the sulfuric acid in his hand directly on Lee Erniu. Seeing the flesh on his forehead being dissolved quickly, Lee Erniu shouted, "Devil! He has the power of the devil." The holy water has no effect on Lee Erniu. He worked. But the next moment, the skin on Lee Erniu's face healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the priests all gasped when they saw this scene. "It's the power of the devil. He is the son of Satan. The red hell demon has come to the world." Lee Erniu frowned, waved his hand and pointed at a group of priests and said, "They are deceiving the public with their evil words and are feudal and superstitious. Take them all to the countryside for reform, and let these idiots receive Marxist ideological education. I want them to be together. All will become glorious proletarian workers within the year." Then he pointed to the guy who threw acid and pretended to be holy water and said, "This is a claw of capitalism. Put him in a detention center." A group of guards responded with a bang, rushed forward, and quickly caught the trouble-making gangsters. 3 hours later, the red armed airship invented by Lee Erniu soared into the sky, carrying more than 500,000 red troops and swept across the entire British Empire. A red shadow that covered the sky and the sun enveloped the entire London. Westminster Abbey was burned to ashes. Big Ben, the chime clock of the Palace of Westminster, was pushed into ruins, the Tower of London was blown into pieces by artillery shells, and Trafalgar Square became a tomb for the minions of capitalism. When Lee Erniu stood on Buckingham Palace, announcing that all of Europe would be liberated. In the city, all the soldiers of the Red Workers and Peasants Armed Alliance were excited. "Long live Chairman Lee! Long live the proletariat! Proletarians all over the world stand up!" Time paused slightly here, and then sped up again with the movement of the man's hands. This time they came directly to the red capital of the United Nations. 5 years have passed since Lee Erniu liberated all of Europe and Asia, and the entire planet has been submerged in red. All people were liberated and joined the proletarian camp. On the wall of the former imperial court, Lee Erniu stood there. "Announce to all humans around the world that the entire planet has entered a proletarian society. Li Anping looked at the excited and enthusiastic crowd around him and said calmly, "The so-called proletarian society, with the current productivity of this planet, I am afraid there is no way to achieve it." "Not bad, so next we speed up his technological process." As the man waved his hands again, the whole world accelerated again. The surrounding buildings changed rapidly at a high speed visible to the naked eye. Countless high-rise buildings rose from the ground, and the entire city was covered with steel and concrete. When the passage of time returned to normal again, 12 years had passed since the unification of the world. In just 12 years, under the governance of Li Anping, the entire planet had no energy, food, and environmental problems. Two huge spaceships the sky orbit forms across, surrounding the planet. He controls the entire planet's weather, atmospheric composition, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, and other factors that can affect human life. Even so, human beings still make no progress, the man said calmly. In this paradise-like environment, they don't need to work or make efforts, and food and all kinds of enjoyment are at their fingertips. In the first few generations, these humans still worshipped us fanatically, abiding by the spirit of proletariat, but as time goes by, no matter how fanatical the spirit is, it slowly fades over time. The man waved his hand and time sped up again, jumping directly to 40 years later. Hundreds of men and women appeared in the square, holding flags and signs to protest in front of the government gate. Some people began to oppose our rule. They are lazy and lack fighting spirit, but they always care about the rights that will never belong to them, the man said while speeding up the camera again. Murder, crime, infighting, frame up, all kinds of dark sides of human beings began to play out one by one. Finding that abundant materials could not stop this situation, Li Erniu began to study something called a mind controller. He wanted to purify the thoughts of all mankind. But does that make sense? All he got was a playground of his own. The man waved his hand, and the reinforced concrete under his feet rose up. With his control, the molecular atomic electronic structure of these reinforced concrete was constantly changed, and a naked human body appeared in front of them. Hundreds of years later, when Li Erniu could transform, create, kill, and resurrect humans at will, he was completely lost. What exactly is a human being? If we can easily create a perfect human being without any flaws, and fully conform to our concept of good and evil in both material and spiritual aspects, when we can create heaven or hell with a thought, the dead can be resurrected infinitely, and time can flow back at will. The so-called good and evil have lost their meaning in the face of such power. When we can do these, what is the meaning of what Li Erniu did before? What is the meaning of the so-called human beings to us? The picture changes again. With the birth of the mind controller, the thoughts of the entire human race are ruled by Li Erniu. They work, rest, and live according to the plan customized by Li Erniu. Everyone works 2 hours a day, exercises for half an hour, has a beautiful wife, a pair of lovely children, a villa of their own, and several hobbies of their own. They are happy and happy every day, because Li Erniu never wants to see people depressed. There is no crime in the world, no rainy days, and even a person will not fall down in his life, unless Li Erniu is sure that this fall will not cause him any negative emotions. Everyone is like the prince and princess in the fairy tale, living a happy life every day. When the changes of the whole world are in our thoughts, and even our eyes can make all mankind happy or fearful, when waving a finger can change everyone's interests, hobbies, good and evil, and right and wrong, then what is right and what is wrong? Li Erniu's biggest problem, which is also your biggest problem, is that after possessing the power of the gods, you still use the old set of moral standards belonging to humans to measure the world. Now, join us, this is what you should do. At the end of the picture, Li Erniu turned off the mind controller and disappeared. After he disappeared, the whole planet fell into endless war and infighting again. At the same time, on the Chaos Sea, countless blue rays spread out from the Chaos Tide, carrying various consciousness algorithms cloned from Li Enping. The thought of the four worlds asked, "Are you copying Li Enping? We must help him first, otherwise this game will be too boring." The Chaos Tide pressed his palm on Li Enping's head, and countless consciousness algorithms flashed in his eyes. "I will let his consciousness blossom on the seeds of chaos. There is no need for him to understand too much knowledge of the multiverse. As long as he exists in different timelines of different universes at the same time, he will naturally become a high-dimensional creature. If it is an ordinary human, he will become an incomprehensible and uncontrollable madman or monster. But for Li Enping, he will break through the limitations of human beings in dimension, and will no longer be so powerless to resist when facing by. With the action of the Chaos Tide, starting from the Sea of Chaos, thousands of universes, each universe has selected 1,000 timelines, and on these timelines, the seeds of chaos blossom and bear fruit. The four worlds thought worriedly, but what about Bai? What if these seeds bloom into Bai? Don't you understand? If a person's power is 10,000, then it doesn't matter if it increases by a single digit. But if another person's power is only 1, then even if it increases by only 3 or 4, it has doubled. To be continued, please search PI Ocean Literature. The novels are better and updated faster. Man at the Top of the Food Chain. Author, Xianglang Go. Chapter 482. With the Chaos Tide, countless worlds began to change. 9 Profound Continent, Fuxian Country, Taming City. In the home of the city lord Li Ruotian was walking around anxiously, listening to the voices of his wife and midwife in the room, his face full of tension. Today is the day his wife is giving birth. 2 hours have passed, but the child in his wife's belly has not come out yet, so how can he not be anxious? At this time, he has the power to turn the world upside down, but he has no way to deal with such things as women giving birth. At this moment, the midwife in the room shouted, "It's out, it's a boy." But before Li Ruotian could be happy, he heard the midwife's panicked voice again, "No, why didn't the little boy cry?" Although Li Ruotian was not a doctor, he knew that babies start breathing with their own lungs when they are born, and the first cry is a sign of the lungs opening. He rushed in immediately upon hearing that, and saw the midwife patting the child's back, anxiously saying, "If he doesn't cry out, the child will not survive." The midwife's palm patted the baby's back again, and the child opened his eyes, and endless light shot out from his eyes. With his first cry, all the zero-point vacuum energy in the endless void reached its peak at this moment, and the entire Fuxian continent became like an annihilation reactor. In just 5 seconds, the entire continent disappeared. Ha 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 ha! The thought of the four worlds couldn't help laughing out loud. This guy is too irritable. He destroyed his hometown as soon as he was born. The Chaos Tide frowned. His power is too strong. It seems that his consciousness algorithm cannot be copied completely, and some deletions must be made. It's not good to be too young, the brain is too delicate, and it's easy to go berserk. After that, a stronger green light enveloped Li Enping's figure, and more worlds were invaded by chaos. On Mount Tai, thousands of martial artists gathered in a circle, staring at the man in the center. Although the man had gray hair on his temples, he had a handsome face and looked like a romantic and elegant scholar. But now his hands, feet, chest, back, thighs and waist were all covered with various knife wounds, sword wounds, rolled wounds, and protruding bone fragments. If an ordinary person looked like this, he would have fainted long ago. But the man was not only alive, but also standing well. His hands were very steady, and there was a faint smile on his mouth, as if the injuries on his body were so insignificant. It was just such a faint smile and a pair of steady fists that made thousands of martial artists around hesitate. He laughed loudly, "You heroes, don't you want to kill the devil and defend the way? Now I'm here, why don't you come up?" Ba, a big monk, came out. He said with a look of pity, "Donor Dongfang, put down your butcher knife and become a Buddha right now. If you are willing to become a monk and live out your life in Shaolin Temple, then... Wait a minute, does Shaolin Temple want to monopolize Dongfang Bai's 9-yang magic, said a man holding a 9-ring broadsword. Ba, you are wrong. Shaolin Temple is a 1,000-year-old temple. With 72 unique skills, why bother to covet the 9-yang magic? You can only know a person's face but not his heart. Who knows what you think? Seeing a group of people in front of him arguing about their martial arts, Dongfang Bai laughed again and said, "You moralists, hypocrites, why do you have to hide it? You surrounded and killed me this time. 1. Just obeyed the order of that dog Emperor Kublai Khan. He was afraid that I would seek revenge on him one day and ruin his Yuan dynasty, so he sent you, a bunch of lackeys, to hunt me down. The other is just coveting my 9-yang magic skill." When he said this, a green light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and an unprecedented enlightenment appeared in his heart. Various data, memories, and truths kept flashing in his mind. The 9-yang magic skill he learned since childhood became so insignificant at this moment that he not only integrated the entire 9-yang magic skill in a few seconds, but also went to a higher level and reached an unprecedented level. He looked at the martial artists in front of him and suddenly said, "You want the 9-yang magic skill, right? Then I'll give it to you." Under the incredulous gazes of thousands of martial artists, Dongfang Bai slowly rose into the air, his hands raised high, and a fireball the size of a truck formed above his head. Within 100 feet, it was like being in a furnace. The martial arts heroes stared blankly at Yu Peng in the sky, sweating profusely without knowing it. "This is the highest level of the 9-yang magic skill I just created, the 9-yang fire. I'll give it to you if you want it." The light that was enough to blind ordinary people's eyes enveloped the top of Mount Tai. On that day, masters from dozens of sects including Shaolin Temple, Quanzhen sect, Qingcheng sect, and Giant Whale sect all died in Dongfang Bai's hands, and there was a panic in the martial arts world. 10 days later, Dongfang Bai went straight to Yuan Dadu alone, killed 100,000 iron cavalry with 3 palms, and then went straight into the palace and cut off Kublai Khan's dog head with his palm, creating a martial arts legend. Some say that he finally broke through the void, others say that he became insane due to practicing martial arts and died on Qinbei mountain, and still others say that he was assassinated and retaliated by the remnants of the Yuan dynasty and died of poisoning. But no one knows what the real result is, and no one cares. The martial artists are more concerned about whether Dongfang Bai left behind the 9-yang magic art, and if so, where it is. Only Dongfang Bai himself knows that he is no longer Dongfang Bai. He is Li Enping, the Lord of Daxia and the King of Humanity. As his power continues to increase and his memory continues to recover, with the help of the Chaos Tide, he finally connects to his body. Not only the world where Dongfang Bai is, but thousands of worlds are changing. The seeds left by the Chaos Tide are injected with Li Enping's consciousness algorithm, and then blossom and bear fruit. In a distant time and space, in a galaxy called the Grand Cross Tomb, the young Victor Li participated in an interstellar war. On the battlefield, he tore his mecha apart with his bare hands, and then, in the incredible observation of everyone, he evaporated the entire Grand Cross Tomb Nebula with an unprecedented hyper-gamma ray burst, and then spent 10 years unifying the entire galaxy. In another time and space, a meteorite as big as the Pacific Ocean hit the Earth. Governments all over the world united. After trying various means such as nuclear bombs, lasers, and explosions, the meteorite still hit the Earth unswervingly. But in the last hour of the Earth's destruction, the middle-aged man Song Pingan, wearing a courier's work clothes, soared into the sky. In the live broadcast of countless military satellites, he punched the meteorite and turned an unprecedented world-destroying disaster into a beautiful meteor shower that spread across the entire planet. An unprecedented superhero was born. In another time and space, the 10 major sects surrounded the North Demon section just when the entire North Demon sect's high-level officials were slaughtered and the North Demon sect, which had been established for tens of thousands of years, was about to perish. A demon sect disciple named Li Huai stepped forward and used a trick called the Great Ivan's 9999th Company to kill 3,000 Taoist masters. He was therefore called the most evil head in history, and the skills he used were also called the legendary strongest skills of the demon sect. The move close to God, Big Ivan's 9999 combos, also became a dark cloud in the hearts of both Buddhist and Taoist sections. Unfortunately, since Li Huai ascended, no one in the demon sect could reach the height of 9999 combos. Being able to reach 10 or 20 combos is already an unprecedented talent. One consciousness after another connected to Li Enping's body, and a strange feeling of being in a different universe and a different timeline surged into his brain. To be continued, please search Ocean Literature. The novel is better and updated faster. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xionglang Go. Chapter 483. A timeline represents a complete world. And the countless forks of a timeline, their collection represents a universe. Then the forks of the timeline are like a tree represents a universe, and a whole forest represents the infinite multiverse. If Li Enping and the other three top warriors of the four worlds were fighting on the timeline before, just like a snake crawling on a branch, then Li Enping, who is now connected by tens of thousands of clones, can feel that he exists on thousands of timeline forks at the same time. He is like a huge vine, entangled in the branches of a large forest. He exists in different universes and different time and space at the same time. At this moment, whether in the past or in the future, it is the present for him. He took a step forward and became a high-dimensional creature. Just after Li Erniu disappeared, the entire Earth fell into chaos because of the power vacuum. The two stood on the moon together, looking at the blue planet in front of them, and took in all the dark affairs in the war. Do you understand? Without us, humans are nothing. They are a hopeless race and are outdated toys. His palm gently patted Li Enping's shoulder. You should grow up and throw away these childhood toys. Li Enping turned his head, and countless data in his eyes were brushing down like a waterfall, and the full power was constantly emerging from his body. The tide of chaos. The man frowned. Nosy guy. Li Enping raised one of his fingers, and an infinite red light was emitted from his finger. At this time, he existed in countless worlds at the same time. With the help of the tide of chaos, he had instantly grown into a 10-dimensional creature. Except for the multiverse itself, there was no boundary that he could not break through. Timeline and timeline, world and world, universe and universe. Everything was so clearly displayed in front of him. The knowledge of various worlds also continued to pour into his brain, the so-called magic, martial arts, immortal way, technology, superpowers, all in sight. If Li Enping wanted to do it himself, it might take many years, but the seeds planted in advance by the tide of chaos saved him countless hard work. Although such accumulation is not comparable to the man in front of him. But it is enough for Li Enping to use his own power in this strange time and space, using the power that has increased by 2 to the power of 378 times in the past 7 years. I saw the red light on his finger at a speed of 300,000 kilometers per second, covering the entire planet. At this moment, a set of exercises emerged in the hearts of everyone in the world. A set of exercises that Li Enping just spent 0.0013 seconds to create. Li Enping said to the man beside him calmly, "This set of proletarian righteousness is just suitable for this planet to practice this kind of exercises. Only when the proletarian thoughts in the heart are higher and the righteousness is more, the power will be stronger. The more evil thoughts in the heart, the heavier the selfishness. The weaker the power. Even if he was originally a proletarian, if he fell into depravity one day, his power will decline rapidly. The more he fell, the more power he lost. Then, Li Enping's palm gently flicked, looking like he was treating the earth as a basketball. He pressed his palm on it and flicked it, and the whole earth moved quickly with his flick, and time was compressed again. Another 50 years passed, and everyone on earth had learned the Wyopo-Genkiju. The strongest among all humans were called One Punch, 2 Fingers, 3 Swords, and 4 Knives. They all reached the highest realm of Wyopo-Genkiju, the realm of red light. When they exerted their power, their entire bodies turned red, and they were not only invulnerable to swords and guns, but also invulnerable to water and fire. They also had the power to overturn mountains and seas, and the speed to chase stars and lightning. Even their lifespan could reach 200 years. Those who had evil thoughts and selfishness in their hearts could not get power from Wyopo-Genkiju. Not only could they not get power, but if they practiced Wyopo-Genkiju forcefully, their bodies would even become weaker and weaker. If they continued to practice forcefully, they might die directly. This is a hell for evil people, because all the good people have become supermen, and the evil people will only become weaker and weaker. But the man on the moon looked at the blue planet under his feet and sneered, "Human justice is the most boring thing in the universe. Even if the whole world is controlled by the most just and selfless people, can it really get better?" He opened his hands and magnified them, and various scenes on the earth began to appear in front of him. As a human, he will make mistakes. It has nothing to do with whether he has evil thoughts or selfishness. The more powerful a person is, the bigger the mistakes he makes. On the space track, the second strongest man in the world, Lin Kuoxian, who is known as the Two-Fingered Man, turned into a red light and looked coldly at the space track in front of him. With his move of the proletarian finger, the track over a range of more than 10 kilometers fell into an endless explosion, and then he was seen turning into a red light, surrounding the track and making moves one after another, and the track used by humans to control climate, environment, and disasters finally gradually collapsed. Just when he was destroying the sky track, 2 other powerful humans, Zhang Aishi, who was known as the One Punch Master, and Zhao Vuchen, who ranked 3rd among the 3 swords, also turned into red light and chased after Lin Kuoxian. Faced with the pursuit of 2 powerful men of the same level, Lin Kuoxian surrendered. He said righteously, "Today you think I am a sinner of the human race, I have nothing to say, but time will prove that I am right." Then he was sentenced to life imprisonment without any resistance. The man said, he thinks that the sky track destroys the ecological balance, so he destroyed the sky track and brought natural disasters back to mankind. Regardless of whether he is right or wrong, he just explained a problem, that is, your approach cannot solve the ubiquitous contradictions in the human world. As he explained, the picture began to change again. In this society dominated by the proletarian righteousness formula, the stronger the power, the more weight the words have. But power itself cannot determine right or wrong. Moreover, no matter how righteous they are, there will still be different positions, contradictions, and conflicts. Some masters think that technology is not good and want humans to return to nature, so that his men are all moved into the mountains and forests. Some masters hope that the whole world will become reinforced concrete and believe that man will conquer nature. These 2 types of people will naturally have conflicts. Some masters have a strong sense of nationality. They believe that the country should be maintained, that each nation is necessary to exist, and that they should be divided and ruled, and that different policies should be implemented according to different nationalities. Some masters believe that the world should be integrated, and there should no longer be national and regional differences. They obviously have conflicts. Some masters like kittens and puppies, while some masters love to eat cat and dog meat. The former believe that kittens and puppies are lives and are partners of humans. The latter believe that animals, like plants, are just a kind of human resource. In this era of extremely abundant materials, it is meaningless to protect animals because humans can synthesize a large number of animals anytime and anywhere. From whether tofu pudding should be sweet or salty to national economic and military planning, The planet is full of contradictions. What's worse is that those masters who practice the Wyopogenkiju will always think that what they do is right, and just because of the justice in their hearts and the morality they abide by, which makes them particularly difficult to be persuaded, and even rely on their own strength to do what they think is just. Like Lin Kuoxian before, he is a typical example. And such a strong man caused more damage than those villains. Looking at the constantly switching images of the man and the words in his mouth, Li Anping stretched out his hand and pressed on the planet in the air, and the whole planet stopped, as if time was suspended. Since there are defects again, I will make up for it. To be continued, please search for Piaotian literature. The novel is better and updated faster. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xionglang Guo. Chapter 484. The entire planet began to reverse, and Li Anping and the man returned to the day when the Wyopogenkiju was born. The red light still spread across the entire planet. The Wyopogenkiju's mental method also appeared in people's hearts. This time, those who practice Wyopogenkiju will not only gain supreme power, but will also gradually approach absolute rationality as their power grows. And the whole world will reach the same sense of justice, and there will be no contradictions in the world. The next moment, as Li Anping's words ended, the planet began to rotate again, and time began to pass again. And with the changes Li Anping made twice on the timeline, just with the birth of Wyopogenkiju, the timeline forked, and two new parallel worlds with Wyopogenkiju were born. In the second parallel world, the two watched the changes that occurred on the Earth 50 years later because of the new Wyopogenkiju. This world has one thing in common with the previous parallel world. In this world, all human beings also practice Wyopogenkiju, and the evil people are still at the bottom of society and have nothing to do with. The difference is that the strong men at the top of the world are all infinitely close to absolute rationality. The higher the proportion of rationality, the weaker their emotions are. In other words, this is a world where the stronger the power, the more indifferent people are to each other, and the more personality is lacking. For the weak, that is, for ordinary people who lack justice and have too much selfishness in their hearts, this is a terrible world. The man dragged the space in front of him and brought Li Anping to different corners of the world. Everyone wore similar clothes, and most people did similar work every day. Those strong men have the same sense of justice and the same rationality. Under their union, ordinary humans have no room for resistance at all. Reason also represents cruelty, the man murmured, in order to ensure the survival of mankind and maintain the only rule. Eliminate human contradictions. More and more things are considered unnecessary by them and reduced by these absolutely rational people. At first, it was cultural and entertainment. Various banned films that can only be watched by people over 18 years old, various animations, novels, and movies related to cannibalism, blood explosions, and abuse were banned by the top leaders. Then there are weapons, which are weapons used in various wars, in order to master power in their own hands. To reduce the harm caused by ordinary people who have not reached the state of reason, all weapons were destroyed. Then, as the personality of the high-level people continued to diminish, they became less and less able to understand the feelings and demands of ordinary people. They began to eliminate all kinds of things that might cause conflicts among humans, and all kinds of things that they thought humans did not need, or that they thought were harmful to humans. Because the high-level people shared the same sense of justice, they were like the same person, and they had the strongest power. No one could stop them, and this situation became more and more serious. From the bloody and violent movies at the beginning to action movies, from weapons to various cutlery, even to intense songs and music were considered inflammatory. The entire human world gradually became cold, and ordinary people whose weapons and related technology trees were destroyed wanted to fight against the high-level people. But the only way to fight against the high-level people was to practice the Wu-proletarian righteousness Jew in the same way, and as long as they kept practicing the Wu-proletarian righteousness Jew, they would continue to approach absolute reason and the high-level people of mankind. As more and more people practiced the proletarian righteousness due to a high level, the entire planet began to fall into a cultural desert. Everyone is becoming more and more like a gear in human society, gradually losing their own color. In the end, most people's feelings will become more and more indifferent. Maybe today your best friend is still playing with you, but after a few months, his Wyogenkiju breaks through and treats you as an ordinary passerby. So some ordinary people began to give up the practice of Wyogenkiju, trying to make society return to a warm society. But in front of the practitioners of Wyogenkiju, these people naturally become the cancer of society and the stumbling block to human development. Because feelings are one of the causes of all contradictions. The picture changed again, and rows of men and women in prison uniforms lined up and were killed by the soldiers who practiced Wyogenkiju. The red mark's fighting spirit directly pierced their foreheads and took their lives. At the beginning, it was the most vicious prisoners, those murderers, anti-socialists, perverts, the scum of the scum. They would never be able to practice the Wyogenkiju. Countless times of ideological transformation did not work, so they were the first to be slaughtered. They were abandoned. As the man spoke, more and more men, women, old and young appeared in the picture. They began to line up to be slaughtered, their eyes full of despair, sadness, and fear. The soldiers who slaughtered them were as cold as robots. There was no emotional fluctuation in their eyes. Even if more humans were killed by them, it was difficult to leave the slightest trace in the hearts of these super-rational and emotionally deluded soldiers. After the prisoners were killed, more and more ordinary people who could not practice the Wyogenkiju, or those who refused to practice the Wyogenkiju, were also sent to the execution platform. It's like eliminating inferior genes. People with evil natures, or people with less justice and selflessness in their genetic inheritance, are infinitely close to zero with repeated rational slaughters. Just like in natural evolution, creatures that are not suitable for the environment are gradually eliminated. On this planet, evil, sentimentality, and chaos are all factors that are not suitable for the environment. The remaining people are more suitable for the Wyogenkiju and this society. When almost all members of the human race entered a super-rational state, their development speed also entered an unprecedented state. As the man's hand gradually moved the earth, the speed of time passing was accelerated again and again under the rapidly rotating earth, and the red dots gradually spread to the entire universe. The entire human society is becoming more and more rational, their emotions are infinitely indifferent, and the only thing left in their hearts is the instinct of reproduction and development. They are like humanoid robots, with red light, occupying one piece of starry sky after another. Is this cold, cruel, absolutely rational, and powerful human world the world you want? Li Enping. Li Enping, do you think we haven't tried all your attempts and ideas? We have tried everything possible. The man looked at Li Enping and said, so you still don't understand? You don't want a perfect human world. There is no perfect world in this world. If you want to be happy, you must endure chaos and contradictions. There is light, then there is darkness. If you want the whole world to remain bright, you can only make yourself that light and let yourself manage human society forever. Relying on your own power, forcibly distort reality and create a world with only happiness and no sadness. But only if you keep your feelings, you will get tired of playing this game of the ideal country one day. Feelings are time limited. After 100,000 years, 1 million years, or 100 million years, when you are tired of playing this game and are extremely disappointed with humans, this game will collapse and go to all kinds of crazy situations. If you abandon your feelings in order to maintain this society and this ideal country forever, and turn yourself into a machine, a root, and a heavenly way, then you will abandon humans at the first moment in your absolute rationality. Because you know that what you do is meaningless except to satisfy your own emotions. No matter which choice you make, humans will eventually be abandoned by us and will be forever in the cycle of good and evil. To be continued. Please search for Ocean literature, the novels are better and updated faster. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xianglang Go. Chapter 485. Li Anping stared at the man in front of him and asked, "Who are you?" "No, what are you?" "The first demon god of the multiverse, the strongest under the ultimate," the man said calmly, "the first cause, the way of heaven, the root, the original, God, the king of demons, the god above gods. Many people call me by various names. But the other demon gods all call me by, or the source of colorless and formless." "The source of colorless and formless," Li Anping repeated slowly. The other party continued, "But these are not me, or our real names. You should understand that I am you, you are me, I am Li Anping, the master of all things, the source of the world. The source of colorless and formless, the first demon god of the White Land, is Li Anping, who has achieved quantum immortality. He has merged himself in countless parallel worlds, constantly expanding on the timeline and merging in the multiverse. And the reason why he became the first demon god of the White Land is also very simple. Because most of the existences of the demon god level have almost broken through the dimension barrier and can wander on the timeline, existing in the past and the future at the same time. The past and the future are both the present moment for them, and the stronger the ability to shuttle through the timeline, the further back in time they can go, and the longer the timeline that exists at the same time. For example, the four worlds thought is 10 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 10 meters high, which is 5 billion years long on the timeline. Then the time attribute of the colorless and formless source after the length, width, and height is above 5 billion years. For example, 10 billion years, he appeared earlier than the four worlds thought. They are like snakes crawling on the timeline. The more powerful the demon god, the longer the timeline he occupies. So among the 12 demon gods, the stronger the power, the earlier they are born. Rather than the earlier they are born, the stronger the power. Although they are the same in terms of results. But the reasons are different. And the colorless and formless source, his power is second to none among the 12 demon gods, and the timeline that exists at the same time is the longest, which is the first demon god of the White Land. So, you were the one who started the war between the 12 demons. Hearing that the source of colorless and formless honestly admitted his identity, Li Anping simply asked a question in his heart. Yes, the existence of several of the 12 demons is harmful to the multiverse and has no benefit, and there is also a lack of communication. So I started the war and exiled the 5 demons. Looking at himself in front of him, Li Anping shook his head and said, "Source of colorless and formless, you are not me. You are just a monster swallowed by the void. And after knowing your identity, I have nothing to talk to you about." As he said, Li Anping stretched out his palm. As his palm pushed, the space particles in the universe were constantly compressed, and each broken space fragment was constantly reduced. Li Anping almost instantly learned the ability of the 33 caves, and even surpassed his master. He stretched out his hand slightly and touched the earth in front of him. And the earth in front of him became the size of an apple under the compression of space, and was held in the palm of Li Anping's hand. A wisp of white light spread out from the surface of the colorless and formless source. His eyes, ears, mouth, and nose were all filled with white light. He said coldly, "Do you want to take action?" "No, I just figured out a problem after verifying your identity." Li Anping's mouth curled up slightly. "First of all, as a completely quantized existence, your consciousness algorithm is absolutely rational. You have no emotions. There are no so-called pity, pride, anger, sadness, and other emotions. So, although your power is countless times stronger than mine, you still don't use your power to suppress me. This can only mean one reason, that is, you can't do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't talk so much nonsense to me. In fact, I thought about it and understood that we are like different ideas of a body. We can't kill each other, so you chose to convince me. But you made a second mistake, that is, you are absolutely rational, you should not say so many philosophical words like before, because you simulated a human personality in an attempt to convince me. It's like creating a simulated personality between you and me as a translator. So before all your words are just to convince me. Because your absolutely rational body can't say these words at all. The white light of the source of colorless and formless gradually weakened, and he said lightly, even so, you will never be able to solve the problems of human beings. If they want to be happy, they must have pain. If they want to have feelings, there must be contradictions. I can't do this now. Creating an ideal country with only happiness and no sadness, a kingdom of God full of happiness and no contradictions, this is what I can't do now. Unless I directly interfere with their consciousness with power, no high-level existence in the entire multiverse can do this. But I thought of a way. Method. There is no way to urge such a method in the universe. The source of colorless and formless said, any attempt of yours is doomed to fail and meaningless. No, there is another way you haven't tried, Li Anping said slowly, that impossible possibility. Omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Just become the ultimate. Ultimate. The colorless and formless source was stunned for a moment, and then said coldly, do you know what the ultimate represents? You don't understand even after I tell you. You're not the ultimate, Li Anping said as his figure slowly disappeared at the same time. After verifying the existence of the other party, he spoke without any scruples, because he knew that the colorless source of absolute reason would never be angry because of verbal insults or contempt. He didn't even have the function of being angry. The source of colorless form frowned, where are you going? Of course I'm going back. You won't be able to convince me for at least 1,000 years. Within these thousand years, I won't get tired of playing with humans. Li Anping's body began to completely dissipate from his legs. The last remaining head said, within these thousand years, as long as I can show the possibility of reaching the ultimate, as an absolutely rational being, you will have no unnecessary sadness, anger, or other emotions at all, and you will naturally integrate into my body. Give up the path to quantum immortality. And since you think that I will one day give up on humanity and leave behind my feelings, as an absolutely rational person, you cannot waste time and energy to suppress or exile me, because I am not like the 5 demon gods you exiled. Which is extremely harmful to the multiverse. Seeing that Li Anping's last head had completely disappeared, the colorless source's expression became colder and colder, as if it were a robot. He erased his simulated personality and appeared as an absolutely rational person again. Faced with what Li Anping said, he did not respond, was not angry, had no regrets, and did not pursue him. Because there is no need, because there is no meaning, there is no need to act, no need to react. He didn't even say anything and just disappeared. When Li Anping appeared on the earth again, the earth had been in war for a whole year. To be continued, please search Ocean Literature. The novels will be better and updated faster. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xianglang Go. Chapter 486. In the solar system, the continuous war burned for a whole year. After the first wave of expeditionary forces of the Silver Shadow Empire was killed, 3 more expeditionary teams were sent to the solar system through the Stargate. More than 100 million space battleships were defeated by the Earth using superweapons such as graviton bombs, gamma-ray cannons, and bright glass rays. However, the number of battleships was too large. Even if the Earth used the superweapons left by Li Anping to destroy them, they still destroyed all the human colonies on Enceladus. What's worse is that the human use of superweapons to destroy the expeditionary forces of the Silver Shadow Empire did not scare off the Empire. Instead, It completely aroused the greed of the high-level officials of the Silver Shadow Empire for the technology displayed by the Earth. 100 million space battleships can only be regarded as a drop in the bucket for the Silver Shadow Empire with a population of more than tens of trillions. In contrast, the technology displayed by the Earth has a great effect on the current strength of the Empire. And the most critical thing is that although the Earth has technology that surpasses the Earth, from the previous attacks, their number is too small, so small that it is pitiful. The destruction of the colonial city made the top leaders of the Silver Shadow Empire see the possibility of crushing the Earth's military by consumption. So, more fleets were photographed in the solar system. War Death Stars, super mechas, artificial airports, and war weapons were transported to the solar system one by one. Just outside the gravitational belt of the entire solar system, more than 10,000 stargates were built. These artificial wormholes swallowed warships outward frantically every day. Millions of warships were transported outside the solar system every day. So far, more than 4 billion warships have been wandering outside the solar system. This is a real interstellar war that humans have never experienced. It can be said that if the Silver Shadow Empire wants to destroy the Earthlings, all the warships will rush to the solar system together. The unprecedented mass and gravity are enough to collapse the entire solar system. But the Silver Shadow Empire naturally did not do so, because their purpose is not to destroy the Earthlings, but to obtain the Earthlings' technology. So they didn't let the army rush in and tear the entire solar system apart. They only sent 5 million warships into the solar system every day to attack the bases of the Earthlings. This was obviously to prevent too many fleets from being destroyed by human super weapons at once. In this way, humans were not wiped out at once. But even so, most of the colonies in the solar system were destroyed by the Silver Shadow Empire one after another. The only bases left for humans now are the Mars base, the Moon base, the Gate space station and the Earth. On the outer side of the solar system, on a mothership with a length of more than 2,000 kilometers, the commander-in-chief of this expeditionary army, the superhero of the Silver Shadow Empire, Reinhardt, was holding a glass of red wine and savoring its unique touch. This red wine is good, but it is still far inferior to the Empire's blue wine. The adjutant on the side bent down and said humbly, "There is no way. The history of these natives is too short, just like a nouveau riche. Their winemaking history is not even a fraction of the length of a colony of the Empire. It doesn't matter. How about Hodim? In the past half-month, Earth has not used their super weapons. The Combat Command suspects that their backup energy has been exhausted. That's why Hodim was sent to attack their Mars colony. There are more than 100 million Earthlings on this colony. They can't give up a lot of resources easily." At this point, Reinhardt smiled slightly. With a look of disgust, he spilled the red wine on the ground. "If they even give up this colony, it means that their super weapons have indeed run out of energy." The cleaning robot on the side came forward and cleaned up the red wine that Reinhardt spilled. The adjutant lowered his head and said, "Hodim's fleet has surrounded the Earthling colony, but the other side is still resisting. You know, their ability users are very powerful." Ability users, this is another thing that surprised the Empire. No one has ever thought that a single human can have combat power comparable to or even beyond that of a warship with the so-called ability. In the past half-month, although the Earth did not activate super weapons, it relied on its own space battleships and ability users to destroy many Silver Shadow Empire troops. However, people are people, and they always need to rest and adjust. Moreover, the number of high-level ability users on Earth is so rare compared to the number of Silver Shadow Empire fleets. So although the ability users destroyed many Silver Shadow Empire troops, they still suffered unimaginable pressure in the face of 5 million warships rushing into the solar system every day. And Hodim's fleet, through the accumulation of this period of time, has enabled the Silver Shadow Empire to have more than 10 million space battleships in the solar system, most of which are the smallest battleships of the Hound class. While Reinhardt and his lieutenant were discussing Hodim's fleet, the entire Mars was surrounded by the Silver Shadow Empire's fleet. They floated quietly in the void tens of millions of kilometers around Mars, and the shadows that covered the sky and the sun almost covered the entire surface of Mars. Every moment, millions of warships' swords flashed with various colors, and the light was bright in the void of the universe, and it could even be seen on Earth. Those were warships using their main guns to attack the major colonial cities on Mars. Kinetic bombs, missiles, nuclear weapons, plasma cannons, all kinds of attacks were raining down on the Martian continent, but most of them failed to achieve any effect. Almost all of them were swallowed up by the space gate that suddenly appeared after entering Mars and the atmosphere created by humans, and then exploded in outer space. After 5 days of continuous bombing, Mars suffered relatively little damage, but the debris of various bombs and missiles were scattered in the outer space around Mars, forming an unprecedented garbage orbit. On Hodim's flagship, he looked at the red planet in front of him and asked, "How is it? Has the defense strength decreased?" "Your Excellency is very smart. From today, more and more attacks have penetrated the opponent's defense circle. 12 cities on Earth have fallen." "Humph, these barbarians are just relying on the inexplicable ability users to hold on until now." Hodim narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a cold and gloomy look. "Do you still want to fight?" "Humph, order the entire army to start the main guns of the battleships and see how he can fight." In the Mars base, SpecialAbilities looked at Fang Yahuang, Emma, and the doctor in front of him with a worried face. The three of them sat in a circle, and more than 10 spiritual gems were placed beside each of them, and dozens of hoses were inserted into their bodies to deliver food and nutrition. They are connected together through the Queen's spiritual force field, and at the same time combined with their 6th level abilities, forming a defense network that surrounds the entire Mars. They have persisted in this situation for 5 days. SpecialAbilities looked at their increasingly weak bodies and mental energy, and his brows were frowning more and more. If this continues, even without the collapse of the spirit gem, the three of them will not be able to hold on. SpecialAbilities asked through the communicator, "Haven't you charged yet?" "Not yet, it still needs 5 days of charging before the retraction cannon can be activated. To activate other super weapons, more energy will be needed, at least 7 to 10 days. 5 days. SpecialAbilities gritted his teeth. Although he rushed to the battlefield every day, he was alone, without the cooperation of Fang Yahuang and others. Using the plasma form, at most a few thousand space battleships could be destroyed in a day, which was simply a drop in the bucket for the entire battlefield. And Bai Xing, who had promised to come to support, had completely lost contact. After receiving this news, SpecialAbilities evacuated the humans on Mars one by one through the space gate, leaving only the basic defensive forces. Now there are only 2 choices for SpecialAbilities. One is to defend Mars until Fang Yahuang, Emma, and the doctor collapse. During this period, wait for support that may or may not be available. Another is to give up Mars and give up this human colony planet. There's no other way. He clicked on the communicator. Everyone start to retreat, prepare to give up Mars. But after saying this, the imagined answer did not come. SpecialAbilities looked at the communicator, which was emitting a few sparks, as if preventing his words from spreading. Just when he felt strange, a hand patted his shoulder. "No need to retreat, leave it to me." To be continued, please search Ocean Literature. The novel is better and updated faster. Man at the Top of the Food Chain. Author, Xionglang Guo. Chapter 487. SpecialAbilities turned around and found Li Anping in a white robe standing behind him. The words just now were obviously spoken by him. Seeing Li Anping appear, SpecialAbilities knelt down and said excitedly, "Your Majesty." He never expected that at this last moment, Li Anping finally appeared. At the same time, Fang Yahuang, Emma, and the doctor, who were sitting cross-legged on the ground, also felt a majestic force forcefully separating the three of them, and then various energies in the void were injected into their bodies. Within the body, they began to regain their strength. The three of them opened their eyes and saw Li Anping in front of them, half kneeling on the ground. "Your Majesty. Okay, you guys take a rest and I'll deal with those fleets." Li Anping waved his hand and planned to leave. Xiaolikan was afraid that Li Anping was underestimating the enemy, so he immediately reminded, "Your Majesty, there are about 10 million fleets in outer space. Outside the solar system, the opponent has at least 4 billion battleships, as well as war Death Stars and cosmic fortresses. And over there at Koch City. Don't worry." Li Anping's figure turned into a wisp of smoke and gradually disappeared in front of everyone. "I know." On Hodim's flagship, he looked at Mars on the display screen and suddenly frowned. Didn't the opponent's defense system be cancelled? Why is our attack still ineffective? "There is a new force field," General, a crew member said. "Some kind of high-density and compact particle layer has been detected, and our artillery fire cannot penetrate it." "Are these annoying natives with superpowers?" Hodim said coldly. "In short, it's just a delaying trick. It seems that their super weapons have indeed run out of energy, and they are delaying time to replenish energy. Order all battleships to open fire with all their strength without reserve energy. I will turn the entire planet into a sea of fire." Following Hodim's order, tens of millions of warships opened fire. An explosion powerful enough to shave off the entire surface of Mars hundreds of times enveloped the entire protective force field. But even if the destructive power is increased by hundreds or tens of thousands of times, as long as Li Anping is not willing, they will never be able to break through the defensive force field he has set up. While the fleet was firing on all cylinders, Hodim stared closely at the screen in front of him and asked, "How is the attack effect? Still hasn't broken through the opponent's defensive force field. Then continue, let's see how long they can hold up." He looked at the screen and suddenly said with some doubts, "Do you feel that this planet seems to have become bigger? Getting bigger?" A group of crew members began to detect, and various parameters were displayed on the screen. There is no change in the diameter of the planet. The distance between the ship and the planet has not changed. The optical telescope was adjusted and no abnormalities were found. But that's when the data remains unchanged. An abnormality that everyone can feel happened. A piece of flesh color larger than the entire planet covered the sky above the entire fleet. The flesh color replaced the darkness of the void of the universe and became the background of the entire fleet. What's going on? What is this? That's wrong. Hodim suddenly thought of something and ordered, "Check the length of the ship's body and check what our current size is." They have been monitoring the external environment, but have forgotten to detect changes in their own fleet. But even if they observe changes in themselves, it is still in vain. Li Anping was seen standing quietly outside the Martian atmosphere. With the grabbing of his palm, the entire 10 million fleet led by Hodim had been fished into a small fish tank in the palm of his hand. All the battleships became the size of bacteria, scattered in this fish tank. In fact, their actual size and mass have not changed. It's just that the space they are in has been compressed, so they were stuffed into the fish tank in Li Anping's hand like now. Looking at the 10 million battleships in his palm, he saw that all the opponent's information had been scanned and analyzed by Li Anping. This small army of the Silver Shadow Empire. Although the fleet number exceeds 10 million, most of the people operating the warships are artificial intelligence, machines, and cyborgs. There are probably only a few hundred humans in the Silver Shadow Empire. No wonder they were willing to suffer such huge losses in the solar system this year, because the number of people they died was relative to their population. Nothing at all. From the beginning to the present, the total population they have sent to the solar system is only a few tens of thousands. Compared with their population of over 1 trillion, it is really not even a drop in the bucket. However, Li Anping looked at the fleet in his hands and had no intention of destroying them. These fleets can be handed over to the Earth. The Silver Movie Emperor assassins above will be tried, executed, or imprisoned by the Earth, and their warships will be kept by the Earth. Or use. Li Enping also plans to deal with the 4 billion space battleships outside the solar system in the same way. I saw him throwing it casually, and the fish tank in his hand was flying quickly towards the void of the universe. It would be like a satellite, rotating around Mars according to a certain orbit. Then Li Enping tapped his finger again, and the planet he brought with the profound righteousness technique, which he now calls Earth number 2, quickly enlarged and retreated, and he would follow Li Enping's instructions. It is calculated to join the orbit of this solar system and become the second Earth in the galaxy. The next moment, Li Enping had disappeared again. Hodim's fleet was already in chaos. The fleet's data did not change, and the data of the planets and galaxies did not change. But under the observation of the optical telescope, they became smaller. Not only did they become smaller, but they were also placed in a transparent cover similar to a fish tank. What a joke, Hodim gritted his teeth and said, is this a nightmare? How could such a thing happen in the universe? Damn, we are trapped here. We measured the diameter of the fish tank alone as 10 million kilometers, and the distance from here to Mars was 12 million kilometers, but the distance from the fish tank to Mars was also 12 million kilometers. What is going on? This is unscientific. When the soldiers of the Silver Shadow Empire were in a state of anxiety, restlessness, fear, and distress for the strange situation in front of them. When their cognition could not explain the scene in front of them. An adjutant walked in front of Hodim. My lord. What's wrong? Hodim looked at the other party's surprised and pale face, and said with some dissatisfaction, what do you want to say? Although the current situation is very strange, Hodim still pretended to be calm. As the commander of the fleet, he must not let the team get in chaos. We combined the optical telescope lenses of all warships and reconstructed this thing through the pictures they just took. A holographic projection appeared in front of Hodim, making his face pale and weak, and his eyes were full of fear of the unknown. It was a man, and the flesh color just overwhelming was his palm. They were directly fished into the fish tank by such a man who was extremely large for the current fleet. And the man's head was also spliced out by the lens of the optical telescope. Hodim said, this man. Yes, the adjutant swallowed and said, we compared the information of the Earthlings, and he is the emperor in the legend of the Earthlings, Li Enping. To be continued, please search Ocean literature, the novel is better and updated faster, man at the top of the food chain author, Xionglang Go. Chapter 488. On the flagship with a length of more than 2,000 kilometers, Reinhard suddenly felt uneasy. He asked the adjutant through the communicator, how is it? Is there any result on Hodim's side? Captain Hodim suddenly lost contact a minute ago. Lost contact, Reinhard frowned, what's going on? It's not determined yet. It might be an accident, or there might be something wrong with the signal there, or there might be something wrong with the quantum relay station. The universe is so huge that even if the center of the sun reaches the outer edge of the gravitational belt, it would take several light years. Even light would take several years to reach the Silver Shadow Empire's fleet. This means that they want to observe the war inside the solar system and observe the situation of Hodim through electromagnetic waves, optical telescopes and other means. Reinhardt and the others will have to wait until a few years to see the current situation, and they are directly observing here now. What we arrived at was the situation of the solar system a few years ago. In order to overcome the distance in the universe, the Silver Shadow Empire uses super-light curvature navigation to unknown areas during interstellar travel, and point-to-point Stargate transmission to areas with known coordinates. In terms of observation and communication methods, quantum communication methods are used. In addition to directly receiving communication information from Hodim's warships, they also left many communication base stations in the solar system to prevent them from losing control of information about the solar system if the fleet was completely destroyed. In the middle of the report, the adjutant's voice suddenly stopped. Reinhard frowned and said sternly, what's going on? Are the people on Earth using super weapons again? There have been several similar situations before, where the opponent's home planet or the ability user used some kind of super weapon to wipe out the entire fleet, causing the entire fleet to lose contact. No, the adjutant said, sending information to Reinhardt, with doubts in his tone, we can no longer detect the existence of the fleet in the solar system. There is no explosion, no large-scale energy reaction, but there is no trace of the fleet in the sky above Mars. It is as if they suddenly disappeared from the universe. Is it some unknown super weapon again? Reinhardt thought of this and nodded. He is even more eager for the super weapons that appear continuously on the Earth and clearly exceed the development of their own civilization. Once this epoch-making technology is used by Silver Shadow, if the Empire learns from it, the entire Empire will enter a golden age. With these super technologies, even the Zerg are nothing. Thinking of this, Reinhardt felt even more grateful for his decision to search for the Earth. This was indeed a success once and for all, and he could no longer be afraid of the Zerg. The way to stand on the top of the galaxy. Thinking of this, he ordered again, the resources of the people on Earth are limited. Their defense of Mars has not used the super weapon until now. It is obvious that they are almost at the end of their rope. Send another 18 million Hound-class battleships and 2 million Ice Bear-class battleships today. Don't give the people of Earth a chance to breathe. As you command. After giving the order, Reinhardt was secretly glad that he had not found them when Earth's civilization had just developed and had not yet broken through the galaxy. If they are allowed to develop, we will no longer know who invaded whom. But now, even if the Earth's technology is possessed, the Silver Shadow Empire can completely crush the opponent with sheer numbers. Think of this. Reinhardt added, also, after Mars is conquered, contact the people on Earth and ask them to surrender. Reinhardt doesn't want the people of Earth to perish together in the end. Although as a civilization, the other party should not be so irrational, but if you are not afraid of 10,000, you are afraid of the worst. Just as Reinhardt finished giving the order, a dark space tunnel suddenly opened under his feet, and he exclaimed as his whole body fell into the space tunnel. Then there was a flash of white light, and the next second he had fallen to the ground, and various wailing sounds came from his ears. Looking up, tens of thousands of space tunnels were spread out 2 meters high in mid-air. Tens of thousands of soldiers of the Silver Shadow Empire fell out of the space tunnels in mid-air one after another. Reinhardt looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Then he turned around and found that they were standing in a huge metal square, surrounded by metal walls. There were no weapons or soldiers, only a man in white robes was leading a group of men and women, standing several hundred meters away and watching them. Are you from Earth? Although Reinhardt didn't know what weapons the other party used, it did not prevent him from understanding the current situation. He waved his hand and directly commanded several soldiers around him, pointing at Li Anping and others and said, "Get him." Although the soldiers of the Silver Shadow Empire do not need to practice close combat, they do not even have any hand-to-hand combat experience, because fighting in the interstellar world only requires pressing buttons, but this does not prevent them from having strong physical fitness. Each of them has been genetically modified. Excellent, physical fitness equivalent to the best athletes on Earth in the past. But in terms of hand-to-hand combat ability, they are incomparable to any current Earthling. But today Li Anping didn't plan to give them a chance to fight. He took out something that looked like a flashlight, shined it on the hundreds of people rushing over, and then said, "Stop everyone and sit on the ground." As the light shone, all the soldiers of the Silver Shadow Empire who were illuminated by the beam stopped and sat on the ground, looking like they were being manipulated by puppets. They suddenly found that they had lost control of their bodies, and their eyes were filled with fear and anxiety. Especially Reinhardt, his eyes were fixed on Li Anping and others, and a wave of humiliation flashed through his heart. That feeling was like a modern man being captured by a group of primitive people. He was both angry and afraid. Li Anping didn't even look at them, but just pointed at the flashlight in his hand and said, This is called a biological control flashlight. Looking at his casual look, it was just a casual remark. This thing can manipulate the behavior of all living things by modifying their consciousness algorithms. But when I say all living things, I mean only most of the living things I know about. Some powerful living things cannot be controlled 100%. The effect can last for 1 hour, and during this hour, living things like humans with independent consciousness can all be aware of what is happening. The human scientists on the side listened and kept recording what Li Anping said. They were called to this test site of the Royal Academy of Sciences today because Li Anping wanted them to come and introduce several inventions. Yes, several inventions that Li Anping made with air molecules. When Li Anping returned to Earth, some of them rushed to Mars, some stayed on Earth, some went to Reinhardt's fleet, and some went to the White Land. He was solving all the problems at the same time. Shi Wen stared at the flashlight in Li Anping's hand, and asked in disbelief, "Is this science? Your Majesty, are you sure you didn't use superpowers, magic, or any other means?" "No, just some props I invented casually." Li Anping thought for a while and added, "I can already replicate all the physical phenomena in the universe. Now I just make this process into a prop so that ordinary people can use it." Seeing that Shi Wen still had a hard time accepting it, Li Anping added, "I have sent the specific principles to your database. You can study them slowly. Today is mainly a test to let you come up with some of them. Insufficient and problematic, can be promoted in the army in the future." "Your Majesty," a female researcher raised her hand, saw Li Anping nodded, pointed to the bracelet on Li Anping's other hand and said, "What is the range of the biological catcher?" "This one," Li Anping said, "the range is 10 light years. According to the input data, the range of the capture object is determined within 10 light years. It is no problem to capture a single or multiple targets. With the biological controller, it can already handle most mortals." All human scientists took a breath when they heard Li Anping's introduction. With this thing, ordinary people without extraordinary powers are simply lambs to be slaughtered. Carefully threw 2 props to Shi Wen and asked him to start trying them. These 2 props are just a beginning, which also means that the Royal Academy of Sciences can't keep up with Li Anping's pace for the time being except for trial and promotion. And he will invent various super tech props next, which will help humans to improve again. This will be unprecedented, a qualitative leap. With various cultivation methods and incredible props, mankind will enter an era of black technology, an era where everyone can become a god. At the same time, Li Anping outside the solar system also began to close the wormhole opened by the Silver Shadow Empire. His palm gently brushed across the void, and thousands of stargates were like wrinkles, which were easily smoothed by Li Anping. To be continued, please search for Ocean literature. The novels are better and updated faster. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Go. Chapter 489. After smoothing out the Stargate opened by the Silver Shadow Empire Expeditionary Force, Li Anping has also connected to the other party's intelligent brain. The artificial intelligence used by the other party's space battleship is a photon computer, a computer that uses photons instead of electrons to transmit data, thereby breaking the limits of silicon technology. However, in terms of computing power, it is still not as good as Li Anping's brain. More than 4 billion space battleships were invaded by Li Anping in an instant, and then their permissions were completely modified, becoming the spoils of the Earthlings. The 10 million fleets still in the fish tank on the orbit of Mars are enough for the Earthlings to take over, so Li Anping intends to leave the 4 billion main battleships here to prevent the other party from invading again after opening the Stargate. Just as Li Anping solved the crisis in the solar system, the White Land was also in a state of change. During the period when the Silver Shadow Empire besieged the solar system, a series of battles broke out between the Xixiao Palace and Kaoj City. Compared with the vastness of the solar system, the combat distance between the two sides on the White Land was shortened countless times, and the cruelty and intensity of the battle were countless times more cruel than the war between the Earth and the Silver Shadow Empire. Most of the ability users on Earth basically came to the White Land. Compared with the empty space of the universe, they could not exert their strength, and their role here was obviously greater. But the enemies they faced were more difficult and more bizarre than the expeditionary forces of the Silver Shadow Empire. They were a group of people who called themselves cultivators. Like ability users, they also had levels, from the lowest chi induction, to foundation building, out of body, golden elixir, yuanying, all the way to the final transformation. However, according to the data collected by the Earth Army, the combat power of cultivators, even at the same level, fluctuates greatly. Taking the Jindan stage, which really began to threaten the human army, as an example, the weakest Jindan stage is roughly equivalent to the top level 4 ability users. The strongest Jindan stage cultivator currently recorded by humans is roughly equivalent to the top 5 level ability users such as Thunder Emperor and Titan, especially with a variety of magic weapons and spells, so that their defense and attack power have no obvious shortcomings. As for cultivators below the Jindan level, their combat power is not to be feared, and most of them are still not as good as the human floating aircraft carriers and combat machines. There are also high-intensity artillery bombardments. It can be said that this war on the White Land is a war in which the Xiao Palace is mainly based on high-end forces, and the human side makes up for it with numbers. In the past year, humans have killed at least thousands of cultivators in the out-of-body stage, hundreds of Jindan stage cultivators, and 6 Yuanying stage cultivators, including one true disciple among the 6 Yuanying. Among them, the thousands of out-of-body stage cultivators were caused by the Xiao Palace's initial underestimation of the power of the human army. After confirming the powerful firepower of humans, cultivators below the Jindan stage never appeared again. The number of deaths in the war may not seem high, but the combat power contained in it is very amazing. It can be said that if there is no demigod Dionysus on the magic star, the loss of this group of cultivators alone is enough to crush the entire magic star. As for the cultivators in the chi-inducing and foundation-building stages, none of them appeared from beginning to end. According to the speculation of the General Staff, these levels of cultivators are the foundation of the Xiao Palace. Their combat power is not strong, which is equivalent to human military academy students. I am afraid they will not easily go to the battlefield. What the Earth does not know is that although the population of the Xiao Palace is not as exaggerated as that of the Silver Shadow Empire, the sect occupies an area of more than 10 Earths, and the population of the entire Xiao Palace is still more than 100 billion, of which there are about 2 million cultivators. The rest are ordinary people serving the cultivators. And as time goes by, the war became more and more intense, and both sides invested more and more high-end combat forces. Since the appearance of the cultivators in the nascent soul stage, and then the 10 true disciples of the Xiao sect were dispatched one after another half a year ago, the ordinary mechanized troops of mankind gradually became ineffective against these monsters. The only ones who can really fight against these powerful cultivators are human warriors equipped with interstellar armor. But even human warriors equipped with interstellar armor must rely on numbers and cooperation to have a chance of winning when facing cultivators in the Golden Core stage or even the nascent soul stage. Only some powerful or level 5 and 6 capable people can face the Golden Core and nascent soul cultivators head-on. As for the mechanized troops sent from other colonial worlds to support the indigenous warriors and mankind's own, most of them are just cannon fodder. The strongest combat forces of Xiao Palace and Kaoch City are the cultivators of Huaxu and level 7 capable people. The 5 elders of Xiao and Beijing have fought 5 times in this year. Each battle can be called earth-shaking. The aftermath of each battle is enough to radiate thousands of miles. No one can do it. However, after continuous battles and tests, the human race has already used all its strength in the White Land, While the Purple Sky Palace has not yet exerted its full strength, especially since the human race has to fight against the Purple Sky Palace and the Silver Shadow Empire on two fronts at the same time, which makes the human race gradually lose the upper hand in the face of the attack of the Purple Sky Palace. North of Kaoj City, 8,000 kilometers. Hundreds of human warriors wearing interstellar armor are moving quickly towards the north. They are wrapped in white force field armor, and the back of the armor sprays blue tail flames. With the effect of the anti-gravity engine, each of them can rush towards the north at 7 times the speed of sound. And in the north where they are heading, the sky-high flames and thunderclouds have flooded the entire sky. 3 days ago, Bai Xing and the 5 elders of Xixiao once again made an appointment to fight in Fengming Gorge in the north of Kaoj City. But this time, the 5 elders of Xixiao used the sex magic weapon, the Shangqing Atlas. They combined the power of the 5 elders of Xixiao, 12 Yuanying cultivators, and 108 Jindan cultivators to set up the 9 heavens and 10 earth starlight extinction array. They wanted to trap Bai Xing in the array and refine him to death with true fire for 49 days. In Kaoj City, all the human troops have been dispatched to Fengming Gorge to rescue Bai Xing. However, this time, Xixiao Palace also sent all the 10 true disciples, including a new true disciple who replaced the lost true disciple, and all the elders in office, to set up a line of defense within 1,000 miles around the 9 heavens and 10 earth starlight extinction array to prevent human rescue. The team of human warriors in front of them looked at the flames in the north and became more anxious. Once Bai Xing died, the entire human race would no longer be able to confront the power of the void-level cultivators, and the battle would completely turn to the Purple Sky Palace. At the end of the team, Li Nian was also wearing interstellar armor, rushing on the road like an ordinary soldier. Over the past year, he had ignored the opposition of several elders and fought with cultivators on the White Land for a long time. With his superior talent and long-term training, both his ability and combat experience improved rapidly. He had killed several Jindan-level cultivators by himself. When he learned that Bai Xing was trapped this time, he was also anxious and followed a troop to support him. As this team of human warriors was on their way, a sweet laugh sounded in their ears. "Haha, junior brother, we are lucky. There seem to be a few fat fish in this group of armored monsters. Seeking something else is just a crooked way." The man's voice was filled with chills. Zandao sword, kill. Accompanied by a chilling word kill, a sword light swept across, and the 5 human warriors in the front row had been pierced through the chest by a sword. Anxious voices sounded from the human warriors' communicators. "Be careful of the flying sword. It's a true disciple, all units pay attention, use the B formation to fight." To be continued, please search for Ocean literature. The novel is better and updated faster. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xionglang Go. Chapter 490. The so-called B formation is a dispersed formation. Although the defense of interstellar armor is enough for human ability warriors to survive in most extreme environments, they are still sometimes unprepared for the various strange attack methods of cultivators. Therefore, when encountering cultivators with fewer people and stronger strength, such as true disciples, the Earth troops often use dispersed formations to reduce losses. With the order of Fangheja, the captain of this team, hundreds of people instantly scattered. The speed of more than 7 times the speed of sound and the ability of optical camouflage made them spread across the vast land like sand, opening up a battlefield of more than 10 kilometers. "Mag, where are they?" Fangheja and Li Nian ran forward together, asking the team members. The casting direction of cultivators can often span dozens or even hundreds of kilometers, and using the means of mind energy to detect is a very inefficient or even useless means. At this time, the ability users with reconnaissance capabilities in the team need to use their own abilities or some high-tech equipment to find out the opponent's position. The brown-haired woman named Mag opened her eyes, and a scene several kilometers away appeared in her pupils. The search range was reduced by combining the built-in thermal energy detection and brainwave detection of the interstellar armor. After more than a year of brutal war, these two methods, one to detect attack traces and the other to detect thinking consciousness, are considered to be the most effective means to find the enemy's traces. A few seconds later, Mag, who has fantasy vision and can see far away regardless of distance, has found the other party. Her voice was transmitted to everyone's ears through the communicator, 16.6 degrees north by west, 8,942 meters away from the captain, 312 meters high, a total of 2 people, suspected to be the true disciples Hua Bailey and Xie Wanjian. They seem to use ice and snow defense methods. Obviously, in the wars again and again, the Earth military has also collected a lot of information about the other party's powerful cultivators. Halfway through, Mag's breathing became rapid. They are doing it again, and the target is me. Dodge on the spot. I'll come. Fang Heja had just finished speaking and was ready to go over to protect Mag himself, and Li Nian's voice had already come to his ears. I'll go. Your ability is suitable for close combat with them. The next moment, the exoskeleton power combined with Li Nian's own electromagnetic drive ability made his speed explode to 12 times the speed of sound, rushing towards Mag's position. A terrifying scream pierced the air and the earth directly. Hearing Li Nian's words, Fang Heja frowned, but he also knew that the two true disciples were extraordinary, and now was not the time to worry. He then ordered, one group aims at the target and attacks, and the second group supports Li Nian and Mag Yesun will send me over. As he said, with 2 swishes, Fang Heja had already pulled out a single molecule vibration knife from his left and right hands, and a long sword composed entirely of constantly vibrating red lightning. Obviously, after a long period of practice, he has completely mastered the 10-fist sword given to him by Li Enping, and can decompose the red particles and solidify the rays into a long or short sword. Along with his order, the ability user named Yesun also began to activate the ability of quantum transmission. Fang Heja, who is best at close combat, was teleported to the side of the two true disciples. On the other side, a group of people had already used Gauss sniper rifles, electromagnetic guns, portable missiles, and other long-range weapons to aim at two true disciples about 9 kilometers away. At the same time, with a terrifying scream, Xie Wanjian's sword of killing has dragged a green sword light and stabbed at Mag hiding behind the stone. The stone is no different from tofu in front of this flying sword. Even before the flying sword touches these stones, the green sword light has already crushed all obstacles. Mag naturally will not be slaughtered. While she retreats rapidly through the antimatter engine of the interstellar armor, she raises her hands. She releases 2 laser cannons in the palm position in the direction of the flying sword in front of her. Facing the speed of the flying sword, ordinary weapons have no chance of hitting it. But although the laser cannon is fast enough, Mag's accuracy is far from hitting Xie Wanjian's flying sword technique that is already free and easy. If it weren't for the ability of fantasy vision that allowed her to see the trajectory of the flying sword, she couldn't even aim and start the laser cannon. But even so, the flying sword of Jean Deo still dodged 2 laser cannons in advance like a swimming fish, and stabbed towards Mag's chest fiercely. Before the sharp sword light arrived, it had already left a white mark on Mag's helmet. This is also unavoidable. Not every ability user has the ability to move at supersonic speed. Usually, they use supersonic low-altitude flight to rush on the road, but once a fight breaks out, most ability users simply cannot use supersonic close combat in contact combat. In a word, they can't react. Only a small number of practitioners of secret martial arts, or innate ability users whose abilities just match, can react. And in Fang Heja's team, there is an ability user who is good at, or has become accustomed to, supersonic combat. Just when Mag didn't react that he was about to die under the sword, a palm wrapped in white armor, with a strong electric light, had already grabbed the flying sword of Jean Deo. The flying sword was held tightly in Li Nian's hand, swinging left and right like a struggling fish. However, looking closely, the flying sword was not tightly attached to the armor, but was caught in Li Nian's hand at a very close distance. Although the force field armor is powerful, the high-speed vibration of the flying sword and the strong radiation contained in the sword body, a certain ability called sword energy by the opponent, has a strong effect on material cutting, which is equivalent to the combination of high-frequency knife and plasma knife, and the material strength itself is far above these two weapons. The reason why Li Nian's hand was not cut off is because he used his electromagnetic ability to catch the opponent's flying sword, rather than the power of flesh and blood. Moreover, Li Nian can exert tens of thousands of tons of power with the ability of electromagnetic drive, and Xie Wanjian's flying sword can't stretch out for a while. Boy, you are looking for death. Xie Wanjian's eyes flashed with electric light, and with his sword formula, the flying sword of Jean Dao that was originally caught in Li Nian's hand suddenly shrank hundreds of times, and then broke free from Li Nian's electromagnetic restraint with a bang. The shrunken flying sword became more dangerous. The flying sword, which was only a few inches long, was like a small meteor. Ordinary people could not see it clearly, let alone dodge it. Fortunately, Li Nian had the ability of electromagnetic drive. In the detection of electromagnetic waves, this flying sword made of hardware was as obvious to him as the moon in the night sky. He did not entangle with the other party. He grabbed Mag, who had not yet reacted, and ran directly to the back. The support of the second group also arrived at this time. More than a dozen phantoms that looked exactly like Li Nian and Mag rose from their bodies and ran in all directions. Whether it was vision, hearing, heat, energy, or airflow, these phantoms could not see the slightest difference, which made Xie Wanjian's sword of killing hesitate for a moment and floated in the air motionless. At this moment, Hua Bailei's sweet laughter sounded in Xie Wanjian's ears again. "Junior brother, you are so busy, do you want me to help you?" Although she asked, she waved her hands at the same time, and a cold wind swept out from her sleeves instantly, freezing all the long-range attacks in mid-air. Humph! But Xie Wanjian naturally knew that Hua Bailei was not referring to these little tricks. He snorted coldly, and his cold eyes were already fixed on Fang Hejia, who had just teleported over 2 meters away. "My swordsmanship is to move forward bravely and make progress. If I can't even cut these crooked ways, what kind of swordsmanship should I practice and what kind of Taoism should I cultivate?" I saw the sword light all over his body surge, and the strength of the nascent soul level finally broke out completely. Within 100 miles around him, it has completely become a world of sword light. There are no swords, only sword light. They can't touch, can't block, but they can cut everything. This is the fundamental magical power of Tianji Unfeng among the 10 great true teachings, the Jade Purity Sword Classic. In the direction of the Jean Dao sword, the flying sword hummed softly, then flew high into the sky, then 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, and in the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of flying swords were suspended in the sky. 10,000 swords and meteors. The next moment, swords rained down, and no matter which one was real and which one was fake, he just wanted to pierce and cut off everything between heaven and earth. To be continued, please search for P.I. Ocean Literature. The novel is better and updated faster.